Hi, this Pheby from the Franchise Entrepreneur. My latest podcast on the subject of the silver entrepreneur and what it means to franchising and the potential and opportunities it can bring to franchising. It's a really interesting subject, and it's something that popped up on my feed on my LinkedIn just the other day. So I kind of have moved my podcasts around because I think this is a really interesting subject, and me coming into the latter stages of my 40s, I thought it was a really interesting subject and what it could potentially mean to people who are looking to franchise their businesses and the opportunities that it brings, and why it's happening as well. So, it's people call it the silver entrepreneurs, or there was an article I saw again the other day called the midlife beginners. Why is it happening? Now, you can look back over the last 10 years. It's been something that's been going on for a while now. It's not just appeared out of nowhere. I think in the last recession in 2008, people being made redundant from their jobs, who were in maybe their 40s or 50s, were looking to take control of their future prospects, and were in maybe a position to do so because they had equity in their houses and things like that. So there's been a natural movement into self-employment. But it's interesting, some of the statistics that I've seen on it. Now, one of the interesting facts are that according to some of the surveys that have been quoted, that the success rate for a self-employed business owner, or entrepreneur if you like, is 70%. So startups that make it through to the year 5, it's around 70% success rate, which is pretty good. Now compare that to only 28% of the age group that are in the millennial sector. That's pretty significant differences. Now, why? So what's the reason for the success rate? Can it be attributed to their age? Well, I think it can be. I think when you're at that age, you've lived more, you've experienced more, you've matured more, you've gained more experiences, you've gained potentially more management ability, more financial controls, less reactive. You tend to plan things more. So I think there's some very good solid reasons for why that might be the case. If you look at why people are going into self-employment more at the age of 50 and over, again, that can be for a number of reasons. There's lots of benefits of going into working for yourself at that age. Some of it's planned, some of it isn't. I mean, at the age of 50 or 55, you're in a position where you've probably built up equity within your property, your home ownership. Pension law changes enable you to release your pensions and take more control over those funds. So you've got an opportunity to start a second career, start a career again. Let's face it, most of us go into employment from leaving school or university not really still too sure what it is that their career path is going to be. And you then 10 years down the track, you're still in that career because now it has become your career. It's something that you do now, and it's a job. And most people work in their jobs in order to pay their bills, not necessarily because it's something that they really enjoy or aspired to do. You're then finding yourself at an age of 50, 55, maybe you're coming to early retirement. Now's your opportunity to actually do and start a career that you actually want, that you enjoy, something that you have a passion for. So there's more opportunity there for a lot of people. And like I said, with the restrictions on pensions being relaxed, there's an opportunity there for these people to withdraw some of that money, some of the equity that you've built up within your home. And also, if you are unfortunate to have lost your job at the age of 50, the reality is that people don't employ people in those age brackets, or it's much more difficult to be re-employed, because people are looking obviously for younger people. So you only have to walk into a B&Q and see they're either very young or they're quite old, or Tesco's on the checkouts and things like that. So your options are quite limited on where you can go, unless you're very lucky. So there's also the necessity to start up your own business, because no bugger wants to employ you. It's the harsh reality of it. It shouldn't be that way, but unfortunately it is. Also, look at the life expectancy now. Life expectancy is, according to the latest statistics, is now 82 years old. Now, 20, 30 years ago, that was significantly less. So people are living longer. So you can now retire earlier and start a second career. As I said, a career that maybe is now all about what you want to do, what your passions are, and not necessarily about having to pay the bills now. You have a little bit more financial security behind you. Now, what also makes it very interesting is that, again, at that age, another reason for why people are looking at self-employment, starting their own businesses, is the world has changed massively. Even in the last 10 years, look at what's happened on technology. So now you can work from anywhere in the world. You have an iPhone. You can start a business up very, very easily. It can be online. It doesn't necessarily have to be online. But the reality is that there are many, many businesses that are available to you that you can operate remotely. You can access your CCTV on your mobile phone. So if you bought a physical asset in terms of a restaurant or a retail outlet and you're not working in it, you can access your CCTV. You can keep an eye on what's going on. You can access your EPOS tills. You can see what money is being taken every single day. Online stock systems that enable you to track your stock. Amazon. You can set up an Amazon business, buying and selling goods. eBay. All of these options are available to you that weren't there 10, 15 years ago. And they're relatively cheap for you to set up. So, you can set up a business relatively cheaply without having a physical store or anything like that. And you can start earning from it. So, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you look to do something like that? You can set up something fairly cheaply online, earn money from it, have a second career, maybe even a supplementary career. Some of these people that are in their 50s and are setting up their businesses are supplementing their existing careers with another one, and increasing their net worth and their disposable income. So technology has had a massive part of changing people's habits and opportunities as well. Capital availability for the older people, for the older generation. I keep saying older generation, blimey, I'm actually in that category now, or just off it. I'm 49. So yeah, let's say the older generation is in its mid-50s. That makes me feel better. But capital availability, and by that I mean a lot of people within that age bracket are better off than their parents were. They own their own homes. They have a significant amount of equity in those homes. And look at the house price increases over the last 20, 30 years. Imagine if you're in London and you've got a 3-bedroom detached house. A lot of parts of London, that house is going to be worth £1 million. if you're looking to downsize, move out of London, and that mortgage is paid off, you're in your 50s, you move out of London, you move to a cheaper area, and you buy a house for, say, 400,000. You know, what's the average price of a house in this country? Is it something like 250,000 or something like that? So you're still buying yourself a really nice house in a nice area, but you've released all of that equity. What are you going to do with it? And you've got your pension as well. You know, this is why people are building businesses. They've got this opportunity to release money out of their pensions, to release money out of their houses, and to do something with it. And as I said, you know, with the technology as it is at the moment, they can work on the go. You can still travel the world if you wanted to. If you wanted your retirement to be about traveling the world, you can still do that, and you can still run your own business from your phone. So there's huge opportunities that were never there years ago. You know, can you imagine having to try and do that and hunt down a fax machine from your hotel? I mean, I still remember those days, having to try and find a fax machine from the hotel to send back to work with some sort of authorization on it, or, you know, papers being sent to me. I mean, that wasn't so long ago. I mean, kids these days laugh about it. I laugh about it because it's just changed so much over the last, 20 years, and even over the last 10 years, massively changed. There's so many opportunities out there, not just for the kids. You know, people think that it's all about opportunities for the kids these days and for the younger generation, the millennials, etc. This is a game changer. It's an opportunity for everyone, and actually, I think. Oh, the light's gone out. I've got one of these sensor lights in my room, and if you don't move around enough, the bloody thing turns itself off. So my video of this podcast has just gone dark. Anyway, so yeah, the opportunities are not just there for the millennial, it's there for everyone. And the great thing about being more advanced in your years is that you've learned an awful lot, you've made a lot of mistakes, you know the pitfalls, you've got potentially more financial clout than millennials have, or the kids have, so you've got that opportunity to start your business up that some of those haven't, and that's maybe why there's such a swing to the older generation starting up their own businesses, because you've got more opportunity to do it, you've got more capital available to you. And it's not just the capital available within your assets, it's also your credit worthiness. If you're in your teens or within your early 20s, you haven't had the opportunity to build up an awful lot of credit worthiness. So a lot of credit agencies and a lot of banks, etc., won't even touch it because your earnings are quite low. You've not generated enough history within the credit agencies. But in your latter years, in your 50s, and you've been paying a mortgage for a number of years, you've potentially paid that off, or you've got a lot of equity in your house. It's not just about the equity release, it's about what it's done to your credit score. You've got a good credit score, which means you've got the ability to be able to go and borrow the money, and you're more credible from a bank's perspective in terms of lending to. You've got more security behind you, more history, more likely to succeed. And I say that because the facts are supporting that. One of the facts that I stated earlier, that the success rate for startups within the age brackets of people within the 50s or older is 70%. Compare that to 28% in the millennial age bracket. Now that's fairly compelling evidence for any lender to say, well, I'm twice as likely to be a success in my 50s as I am in my 20s or early 30s. So the reality is that it's going to be easier for you to borrow money. So, great stuff. So now what does this mean for franchising? I think there's been a bit of a trick missed here for a lot of franchisees or franchisors looking to grow their brand. Certainly it's a bit of an eye-opener for me, looking at some of these statistics. I obviously franchise my brands out myself, knowing that there's a 70% likelihood of an older person be more successful than a younger person, or twice as likely to be successful. The availability for that capital that they're less likely to have to borrow the money, makes it very compelling from me as a franchisor to actually try and target that age group, to try and bring in franchises, knowing that franchising is popular anyway because you're more likely to succeed with a franchise model than you are of starting up on your own. So that would in itself be more attractive to older people looking for safer investments, and therefore you need to kind of package up a franchise offering that attracts that type of investor. So I'm going to be looking at some of our franchising packaging and how we market ourselves to those kind of age groups and where we market, with a clear strategy on attracting more of these types of people into our businesses, and have the confidence of knowing that they are more likely to succeed as well, and that they have more resources available to them, they have more experience, and the statistics back them up as likely to be more successful. And what are the types of things that we can do to package something up for them that might make it more attractive? Well, you've got a couple of types of investor. You've got those who are retired and are looking for a business that they can actively work in and be a part of on a day-to-day basis. And then you've got those who still want to be sort of hands-off but a bit touchy-feely about it, still want to have some feel of involvement in it, but not all the hassle of the day-to-day side of things. And you've also got ones that are maybe transitioning from retirement to looking for their next career opportunity. So they may still be in employment, but they're looking for an opportunity for another business. Now, franchising is perfect for all three of those. Now, one of the things that I would possibly look to do is for those that are looking to transition from their full-time employment into franchising. And now, obviously, I'm in restaurant franchising, so I might do something like a managed franchise option. Now, what that is that it runs pretty much the same as a normal franchise, where someone owns the business, bought the franchise off you, employs all the staff, and pays their royalties. The difference with a managed one is that they have all of that, but they will pay an additional fee for what we call a management fee, where we would look after the day-to-day running of that business on their behalf and charge them accordingly for that. That gives them the opportunity to, one, learn the business while still being employed in their main job, and allows them to transition from their employment then into fully taking over the day-to-day running of that business. Or they may actually decide that this may just become a part of their portfolio of investments, and they leave it under management and just consider it as part of their portfolio. So they may have property, they may continue to carry on working within their career, and this just adds extra revenue stream to them. Alternatively, they could get involved in franchising in a normal way and buy a franchise and run it themselves, work in it themselves, and build up the business and hopefully be a success and open up 2 or 3 of those. That's very much more the traditional franchise model. And there's another one as well that potentially you don't see in franchising at all, but it's something I've played around with a couple of times, and that's a guaranteed investment return on franchising. So once again, I would suggest it probably looks something like they buy a franchise in the normal way, and it is run under our management, and they pay a management fee for that. So I would guarantee them, as a franchisor, a certain return each year, regardless of whether that store performs or not. So I have a vested interest in making sure that it does perform. So you might turn around and say, well, okay, look, you've bought the franchise, you own it, you own the asset, the staff are employed by you, but we will manage it on your behalf. Now that could be because one, you've still got your career and you're still working it, or it could be that you just want it as an investment and potential as an additional revenue stream. But what we will do is that we will guarantee a certain percentage return. So that could be, let's just say for example, you say 8%. We give you an 8% return on your investment. So if you're, let's make it easy because I'm not very good at mathematics, £100,000 is the investment. You're going to get £8,000 back a year. That's guaranteed. You will get that £8,000 back every single year, regardless of the performance of that store. Now, if you built that into your portfolio of investments, that might be something that's very interesting to you. That, you know, if that £100,000 was sat in the bank, you're not going to get anywhere near that 8%. If you put it into stocks and shares, you know, would you get 8% a year from it? Maybe. But it's certainly comparable. If you put it into property, would you get 8%? Depending on the area. Again, comparable. Probably increases are around maybe 5 or 6% on property each year, so you'll probably be outperforming that. So again, it can be part of your portfolio of investments. Again, you're hands off, you're guaranteed a return. From a franchisor's point of view, so from my perspective, I've got an investor, I've built an additional store, I'm growing my business, I know it's going to cost me 8% a year to pay them their return, assuming that the business doesn't generate that. So that's my exposure. Potential exposure is that business loses money and I have to cover that return or investment. But there's something that can be done there. Again, it's shaking up the franchise world because these sort of things are not on offer as a rule, and I think they probably should be. You know, businesses move. You know, times have changed. You know, the internet, the technology that's around these days, and people's working habits are all changing. Franchising isn't, and it should, and it needs to. And I think those who grasp that need to service those people who are looking for that type of investment are the ones that are going to really kind of shake things up. And I want to be part of those movers and shakers. So that's something that I'm going to certainly be looking at, these kind of packaged deals and targeting this kind of age group. So that's the silver entrepreneur, what it means to franchising, or what potentially it could mean to franchising. I hope you found that of interest. It's a little bit of a detour from my normal podcast. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Don't forget, I upload new episodes every Friday on iTunes, YouTube and all other podcast providers. If you've got a second, please do leave me a rating and review. It really helps me get new eyes on the show. So thanks for listening, and remember, don't let your reality get in the way of your dreams.